In the middle of the night in England, 3 animal rights advocates break into the Cambridge Primate Research Center. Inside, a number of chimpanzees are being subjected to experiments involving exposure to intense footage filled with human conflict, aggression, and destruction. As the group begins documenting the conditions with their cameras, a scientist catches them in the act and rushes to raise the alarm. The activists stop him, and in the process, he pleads with them to leave the animals alone, explaining that the chimpanzees have been exposed to a highly contagious condition, something volatile and dangerous known only as rage. Despite his warnings, the group doesn't believe him and proceeds to release one of the chimps. Immediately, the animal lashes out, attacking one of the women with ferocity. Before anyone can process what's happening, the others panic and chaos erupts. The woman who was harmed starts reacting violently, becoming disoriented and aggressive. The scientist, recognizing the early signs of the condition, begs the others to stop her, but it's too late. She rapidly descends into a dangerous state and turns on the others in the room, spreading the same condition. 28 days later, a man named Jim awakens from a coma in an abandoned hospital. Confused and alone, he leaves his room and begins searching for someone, anyone. But the building is empty. As he steps outside, he finds London deserted, buildings damaged, streets silent. He grabs a few drinks from a vending machine and continues exploring the city, passing through eerily empty landmarks and overturned vehicles. He eventually comes across a bulletin board covered with missing persons notes and scattered newspapers that suggest the country experienced a rapid collapse. Following signs of refuge, he enters a church. Inside, he sees haunting messages scrawled on the walls and many unmoving bodies in the main hall. When he calls out, a few of the figures suddenly begin to stir. Then a figure dressed as a priest approaches, but something is clearly wrong. The man charges toward Jim in an unstable, violent state, forcing Jim to defend himself and flee the building. Others, also overcome by the same state, begin chasing him through the streets. Jim runs for his life, eventually reaching a gas station. There, 2 survivors, Mark and Selena, intervene. They throw fire-based distractions to deter the attackers and help Jim escape. Once safe, they destroy the gas station to cut off the chase. Jim is taken to their hideout, a deserted sweet shop tucked away in London's underground. While resting there, he shares that he had been unconscious due to a car accident before all of this unfolded. Selena then explains what he missed. A highly contagious outbreak emerged from a research facility and spread rapidly. It causes extreme aggression in those affected, and it overwhelmed the country within days. Most of the population is either gone or consumed by this outbreak, with society, the military, and leadership systems all having collapsed. Still in shock, Jim insists on going to his parents' house to see if they're okay, despite Selena's warning that it's likely too late. Reluctantly, she and Mark agree to accompany him. The next day, the group carefully navigates the quiet streets and eventually reach Jim's childhood home. Inside, Jim is heartbroken to discover that his parents had chosen to quietly end their lives before the situation worsened. They left behind a note on their bed for Jim that read, "Don't wake up." While Jim processes the moment in silence, Mark and Selena comfort him. They gently tell him that he should take solace in knowing his parents were spared the suffering they themselves witnessed, watching loved ones change in irreversible ways. They spend the night at the house, but Jim struggles to fall asleep. Restless, he begins watching old family videos. Unfortunately, the light he switches on gives away their location, and without warning, 2 infected individuals crash through the window. Jim tries to defend himself, calling out for help. His cries alert Mark and Selena, who leap into action. With swift and determined moves, they neutralize the threat, ensuring everyone's safety. Afterward, Selena quickly checks to make sure Jim hasn't been harmed or exposed in any risky way. Sadly, it's Mark who has sustained a serious injury, his arm now showing signs of exposure. With a heavy heart and no time to hesitate, Selena does what she believes is necessary and ensures the infection won't spread. She then tells Jim they must move immediately before others arrive. After cleaning up, changing clothes, and gathering supplies, Jim and Selena continue their journey. Selena emphasizes a grim but necessary rule. If someone becomes exposed, action must be taken quickly, no matter who they are. Later, the pair notices flashing lights coming from a nearby apartment and decide to investigate. The building is in poor condition, and the lobby is blocked by shopping carts. They climb over the barricade and make their way up the stairs. Midway through, unsettling sounds echo behind them. More infected have entered and are now following. As they climb faster, they're suddenly stopped by a man in protective gear who gives them his apartment number and holds off the approaching danger with a shield and a bat. Jim and Selena reach the apartment, but the door doesn't open until the man returns safely. Inside, they're welcomed by Frank and his daughter Hannah, who are relieved to finally have company. The apartment, lit up with string lights, has served as their shelter for a while. The next day, Frank brings Jim to the rooftop to show his water collection setup. But it hasn't rained in days. Supplies are running low and they can't stay much longer. Frank also plays a repeating military broadcast that claims there's protection offered by soldiers outside Manchester, along with something described as a solution. While Selena doubts the message's credibility, Hannah delivers a heartfelt plea, and eventually, everyone agrees to take the risk. They pack up their essentials and take Frank's taxi through London, passing streets filled with wreckage and silence. Trying to take a shortcut through a tunnel, they encounter a pileup of wrecked vehicles and debris. Frank pushes through it, but ends up with a flat tire. As they step out to change it, an unsettling noise grows louder. A stream of rats rushes past them, signaling that more infected are on the way. With no time to waste, the adults lift the vehicle while Hannah quickly replaces the tire. Shadows begin to appear, and the threat draws closer, but just in time, the group finishes and speeds away to safety. Later, after hours on the road, they stop at a remote burger shack to siphon fuel from an abandoned truck. Curious, Jim explores the small building and finds a family who didn't make it. In a shocking moment, a young infected child rushes at him, and Jim is forced to act in self-defense. After the harrowing moment, they continue their journey through the peaceful countryside. The contrast is striking. Nature remains untouched. They stop for dinner under the open sky and watch wild horses roaming freely. For a brief moment, there's peace. Selena admits she didn't expect anything like this and surprises Jim with a kiss on the cheek. That night, the group finds shelter in the ruins of an old castle. Hannah and Jim struggle with sleep and wake Selena to ask how she manages to rest so easily. She gently shares some of her medicine to help them relax. By morning, Jim wakes in a panic, thinking he's alone. But it turns out to be just a dream. Frank is right there, waking him with a reassuring voice. The next day, the group continues their journey and eventually spots smoke rising from what used to be Manchester. When they arrive at the supposed safe zone mentioned in the message, they find military vehicles and equipment, but no one around. Selena believes it's time to move on, but Frank is determined not to give up and insists on searching the area further. Frustrated, he kicks at a wall where a crow is perched, unaware the bird had been pecking near a lifeless, infected figure. A droplet from above falls into his eye. Realizing what's happening, Frank turns to Hannah and, with emotion, tells her how much he cares for her and pleads with her to stay back. As the change begins to take hold, he stumbles backward, trying to keep his distance. Selena urges Jim to intervene, but Jim freezes, unable to act. Just then, a group of soldiers suddenly arrive and handle the situation. They then take Jim, Selena, and Hannah to a fortified estate deep in the woods, where they've established a base of operations. Their leader, Major West, welcomes them with food, clean clothes, and a safe place to rest. Later, while Hannah naps, Selena breaks down emotionally in front of Jim. He tries to console her, and they share a brief moment, but Selena quickly pulls away, unsettled by what just happened. Jim later asks Major West about the solution mentioned in the radio broadcast. West explains that the protection measures and fortified setup around the estate are what he meant. He also reveals that they've been keeping one of the infected restrained in the courtyard to observe its behavior, particularly how long it takes before the infected cease functioning due to lack of sustenance. Jim finds this disturbing, but West insists it's for research. That evening, the group has dinner with the soldiers, whose strict, rough behavior leaves an uneasy impression. West remains fully dressed in uniform and scolds a soldier over a minor mistake with the meal. He also suggests that Hannah could help out with kitchen duties moving forward. Suddenly, the alarm goes off, and everyone springs into action to defend the estate. The soldiers swiftly take their positions and handle the threat outside, neutralizing it with little trouble using coordinated tactics and heavy firepower. After returning inside, one soldier, Mitchell, behaves inappropriately towards Selena. Jim intervenes, but Mitchell easily overpowers him. Fortunately, Sergeant Farrell steps in and diffuses the situation. Major West arrives shortly afterward, instructing the others to handle cleanup, and then speaks privately with Jim. West explains that not long ago he stopped one of his soldiers, Jones, from doing something drastic due to hopelessness. To keep morale up, West promised his men they would eventually rebuild society, including ensuring a future generation. That, he admits, is the real reason behind the radio broadcast: to attract people, particularly women. Disturbed by this, Jim tries to take Hannah and Selena and escape, but the soldiers stop them. Farrell objects to West's plan and is also restrained for speaking out. Jim and Farrell are locked up together. Farrell theorizes that the rest of the world may still be unaffected, with the infection possibly contained only to Britain. This sparks a glimmer of hope in Jim. The following morning, soldiers take Jim and Farrell out under the pretense of relocation, but it's clear something darker is planned. Farrell calls them out for turning on one of their own. A heated argument begins. Jones wants things over quickly, while Mitchell has other ideas. In the chaos, Jones fires, causing harm to both Farrell and Mitchell. During the confusion, Jim seizes the chance to vanish into the nearby woods. The soldiers assume Jim won't last long out there and decide to let him go, believing the terrain and remaining infected will stop him. Jim, meanwhile, hides in plain sight among debris and escapes by scaling a wall. As he runs, he spots something remarkable overhead: a jet flying across the sky, hinting that Farrell may have been right. The world beyond could still be okay. Back at the estate, the remaining soldiers try to prepare Hannah and Selena for their unsettling plan, even suggesting formal clothes for the evening. Thinking fast, Selena pretends to play along and convinces one of them to give them privacy to change. Once alone, she gives Hannah a small dose of medicine to help her stay calm. When the soldier returns unexpectedly, he overhears part of their conversation. But before he can act, the alarm sounds once more. It turns out Jim has returned and is triggering the alarm on purpose, drawing attention away. Major West and another soldier rush out to investigate. Jim quietly maneuvers through the area and manages to incapacitate one of the men. When West realizes something's wrong, he fires into the darkness, unsure of where the threat is coming from. Just as West attempts to drive away in the Jeep, he realizes the vehicle is no longer operational. In that tense moment, one of the infected leaps onto the roof. West quickly responds and manages to handle the threat, then turns back toward the mansion, knowing time is short. Meanwhile, Jim also returns to the estate. Armed with the tool he retrieved from the Jeep, he frees the restrained infected person from earlier. The figure bolts straight through a window, startling the guards watching over the girls. Seeing an opening, Selena grabs Hannah and pulls her to safety as the chaotic chain of events unfolds. One of the guards is overwhelmed by the runaway infected and quickly begins showing signs of the condition himself. Soon, he begins to pursue Jones. Selena and Hannah rush toward the exit but find Mitchell blocking their path. Before he can act, Jones dashes past, still being followed. Mitchell sends another soldier after them and turns his attention back to the girls. Jones hides in the kitchen, but just as the infected figure closes in on him, a soldier steps in to help, only to end up overwhelmed as well. Jim watches the scene from a window, quietly calculating his next move. Inside a nearby cupboard, Jones breaks down, unable to cope. As the infected move on, Jones makes a run for it, but Jim intercepts him and without hesitation ends the threat he believes Jones may pose. Jim slips into a hidden passage as more danger sweeps through the building. Upstairs, Hannah manages to escape Mitchell and finds herself in a dressing room where she notices a photo of her father. Sensing something nearby, she hides just in time as another infected enters. Confused by its own reflection in the mirror, it eventually turns away, leaving her undetected. Jim continues his search and stumbles upon a soldier hiding, pleading for help. With no way to assist, Jim quietly steps out the window, leaving the man behind as the infected close in. Navigating the roofline, Jim spots the room where Mitchell is holding Selena captive. Without hesitation, he climbs through the window. A tense moment follows. Mitchell grabs Selena in desperation, but Jim charges in and breaks his hold, engaging him with everything he has left. The fight is fierce, and Jim gains the upper hand. Selena, caught in the emotional rush and the fear of infection, raises her machete in defense. For a moment, she hesitates, unsure if Jim is still himself. That brief pause allows Jim to show he's okay, and the two share a breath of relief and a kiss. Suddenly, Hannah strikes Jim with a vase, also fearing the worst, but quickly realizes he's unharmed. The three waste no time escaping the house. As they approach Frank's taxi, West is already waiting inside. Still consumed by the loss of his team, he retaliates and injures Jim. Thinking quickly, Hannah shifts the taxi into reverse, crashing through the building. The earlier freed infected figure bursts through the back window and pulls West from the car, ending his pursuit for good. Hannah drives forward, picking up Selena and Jim as they make their escape. She doesn't stop, not even for the locked gates, which she crashes through with determination. Jim's memories after that are a blur. He recalls Selena performing CPR and desperately pleading for him to stay with them. Her voice echoes in his memory as he drifts in and out. 28 days later, the trio is safe, living quietly in a small countryside cottage. Selena has been working hard stitching together fabric, and when a plane flies overhead, they all rush out into a sunny field. Spelled out across the grass in large letters is one simple word: H-E-L-L-O. The plane circles back, having seen their sign. And just like that, even in the darkest moments, a flicker of hope finds its way back. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more gripping narratives that stay with you long after the final scene.